In a world full of movie podcasts, here is one more. Welcome to Defend Your Movie with Sean Donnelly.
The time has come again. The champion must stand. It can only be one of us. Victorious. So stand up and fight, my friend. There's a title you must defend. Shut it on, bring it to me. Defend your movie.
Welcome, everybody, to Total Effin' Marks and
Defend Your Movie
with Dan St. Germain.
and Sean Donnelly and
My name is Andy Fiore.
We have different podcasts, one professional wrestling and one movies, and we were too lazy to record at different times. So
No, but this is actually perfect because what you're doing this week on your podcast is what me and Andy do on our podcast
right.
week by week.
I just stole it.
Yeah, you stole the idea.
What if I start doing it, but with only wrestling movies? How low stakes would that be? You could do like 10 episodes.
Yeah,
have
you'd
a
be
good-
done in 2 weeks.
A good 10-week run.
Yeah.
It'd be a limited run series.
Well, Dan, I want to say first off, it's your idea to do this, and you owe me $6.
I do owe you guys. I forgot cash.
No.
Maybe I'll
Oh,
get
I'm
you.
kidding, dude. I'm kidding.
Man.
Wow. What?
They are. Like, but
well, let's describe it first. Why don't you
Okay,
describe it?
so this episode is to determine what's worse or what's better. I would say we had a lot of discussion before we even did the episode. I think by the end of the episode we're going to decide like what's the easier movie to get through.
Yeah. Also, these are two movies that you go into. You don't think you're going to have as strong of an opinion. You know they're bad movies going in.
Yeah.
You know you're going to watch them, but you're thinking like, oh, they'll just be like whatever. I have very strong opinions about what I like better and what was garbage.
I do too.
Absolutely.
First off, okay. Well, the two movies are Suburban Commando and Mr. Nanny.
Yes.
The reason that we're doing it this week is Hulk Hogan is back
Yes.
in wrestling.
Oh, is that
Really?
true?
This is the Saudi Arabian show in WWE, which has become the biggest controversial thing that WWE has done since probably the death of Owen Hart when they decided to run the show. That they're holding the show in Saudi Arabia, and they just announced yesterday that Hulk Hogan is the master of ceremonies.
What would you
Wow.
do if the first 3 minutes of him on film, he says the sand N-word, and they shut down the whole thing?
That's Hollywood Hogan. That's not regular Hulk.
Right.
That's Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah.
Florida Hogan, that's what that is.
It is.
That's the real Hogan.
Well,
That's Terry. That's who that is.
That's Port Tape Hogan.
It is, yeah. So I think that WWE is just trying to get all its public relations disasters out in one day.
My first thought on that is that why they're doing it, because of all the problems we have with Saudi Arabia right now, with that journalist and everything, they're sitting there going, oh, what will get people's minds off it? Because they thought it was going to be a big deal that it was in the Middle East.
Yeah.
But now they're like, guess what? The biggest thing ever is going to happen in wrestling. So don't worry where it is. It's just it's on a beach. It's on a beach. It's on a beach. Don't worry about
This
it.
might not be a popular opinion, but if I see a Hulk Hogan terrorist video, like him being caught by terrorists, and him having to like read a script, like blindfolded.
Listen, brother,
Like,
they're treating me very well.
I think
Listen, all
we
you
know
Hulkamaniacs.
I think if we know one thing: don't make him read a script. After seeing these two
After
episodes,
seeing the movie.
do
Oh,
not make him.
Let's hope he-
Okay, let's talk about.
Let's hope he doesn't get kidnapped after seeing these movies. They're going to cut his head off in 30 seconds. Listen, brother, they're treating me well. I'm eating 3 square meals a day, brother.
Oh, yeah.
He's blinking Morse code. Listen, Hulkamaniacs. How do you SOS Hulkamaniac?
They try to cut his head off, and he fights him, and then does that one finger thing.
He's doing the ear thing. No one can hear you in that cave, Hulk.
Doing the ear thing with no ears. All right, sorry,
Look,
go ahead.
Saudi Arabia does not sponsor terrorism. It just helps get terrorists out of our country before
Right,
they get
right. They
prosecuted.
just cash rolling.
Well, let's get that out of the way first. But man, Hulk Hogan. Before I want to start off by saying that the last week's episode. I'm a terrible host. The last week's episode was myself, James Matter, and Sam Morril watching an episode of Thunder in Paradise. And I will say
that was his TV show,
that
right?
his acting got worse.
Yeah.
But Thunder in Paradise, he's actually worse in.
Well,
Speaking
even
of
with
torture.
these two movies, it gets
Even
worse.
these two movies, it gets far worse.
Yeah.
it was so bad.
I mean, both movies are astonishingly bad.
Astonishingly.
Both movies are astonishingly bad, but there's one when you don't realize it's going to happen, but there's one clear frontrunner when you watch them.
I think
agree.
we're going to
I
agree.
think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of it.
Yeah.
Because I think something happens in your head. Let's start off.
I have a distinct moment.
Let's just start off by praising Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Oh,
before
can we just clap for him a little
and
bit?
Dave Bautista.
Oh, yeah.
And anyone else, and Roddy Piper, and they
Yeah.
live. Any
They live
other
great.
wrestler
They are-
who's tried to act.
Compared to Hogan, they are Sir Lawrence Olivier.
I think that when they're like pro wrestlers can't act, they just judged it by Hulk Hogan. It's the worst acting. He's one of the worst actors
He's
I've
got
ever
multiple vehicles, too.
Also,
That's crazy how many
do
movies
you
he's in.
realize how bad he has to be for that? That's what they put in. Can you imagine what's
Yeah,
on the
that's
cutting
the
room
take
floor?
they landed on.
There's moments in both of these movies where he's just doing face twitches after he says lines that make no emotional sense to what he just
none.
said. It's literally just like he has Tourette's, like not Tourette's, like he's just twitching, just involuntarily twitching.
Well, let's start off with Suburban Commando, 1991. Hulk Hogan plays Shep Ramsey, an intergalactic, I guess, rogue Han Solo type.
Yeah, like alien type.
Yeah,
But
the beginning of the movie is a literal Star Wars ripoff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, to opposed of when the evil ship is coming in, like, they copy it.
Done
like,
with one
Like shot by
17th of the
shot.
budget. Yeah.
The budget of the movie was $11 million. It made $8 million at the box office. So it didn't do as badly as I thought it was going to do. So the other characters in the movie are Charlie Wilcox, played by Christopher Lloyd, Jenny Wilcox, played by Shelley Duvall.
Yep.
Adrian Belt, the boss, played by Larry Miller, who, in my mind, is the one saving grace of the movie.
I think there's multiple. I'll
There's
tell
a
you.
few.
I'll tell you in a second. You want me to tell you now? Or
and
no?
I think The Undertaker's really good, too.
Yeah.
Well,
And
Undertaker's
it's a
part
bounty
of.
hunter.
Well, it's him and that other guy who's a famous henchman from movies.
Oh, William Ball.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. William
No.
Ball is General Suter.
Oh, the big guy.
The other guy. Those two guys are pretty good.
Well, also Christopher Lloyd, great. Shelley Duvall, great.
Christopher Lloyd, I hated in this movie.
Really?
Hated him in this movie.
I just think he was trying to get through it.
Well,
That's what I mean.
That's what it was.
He's not good as anything but a crazy
But at
person.
least he's
very good.
familiar, and it's like you can hold on to it while you're watching it. You're like, oh, and it's around the time of Back to the Future. It's only a few years later.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, this is like classic Christopher Lloyd. Like, I know it's not great, but at least like he can. Because, dude, compared to fucking Mr. Nanny,
I would have to say,
this is
I
Gone
guess
with the Wind. It's insane.
I like Mr. Nanny more.
Wow!
And I will tell you why. It has nothing to do with it. Mr. Nanny is so fucking crazy. And it's kind of like watching No Holds Barred, where because the budget's worse and because the quality's worse, I'm able to watch it. And there's more interesting bad shit that happens in Mr. Nanny.
What was the budget on Mr. Nanny?
As far as if you want to judge, and we'll get through this. I guess we're kind of jumping the shark. We're doing the end of the episode first.
Yeah.
In my mind, like if you want to like structurally look at which movie's worse,
If you-
Mr. Nanny,
Mr. Nanny.
But which
Absolutely.
movie is more not watchable in my mind? Mr. Nanny.
No way.
No way.
Really?
Because of the structure. And
Absolutely.
also, Mr. Nanny, tell me where the comedy lands. The comedy, there is actual funny parts
There
in Suburban
is.
Commando.
There's 100%. I think you're going to say the same thing I'm thinking of.
The bully one? The bully
Not the
part?
bully one.
line is great. When the bullies come over, and then you have the moment, and actually it's a play on the big tough guy movies where the bullies that are building hot rods next to Christopher Lloyd's house, they park the hot rods in front of his driveway. He can't get through. Hulk
Dozer.
Hogan-
That's, by the way, Dozer from
Yes.
Mask.
Yes.
The same guy.
And also, he's from
There are a
from
few things,
a
yeah.
bunch of things, yeah. And not Point Break. What's the one with whatever the Russia? Not whatever the fuck. Anyway, listen. So Hulk Hogan goes over and moves their hot rods. They come over and they go, "You know what we're gonna do to you?" And he goes, "Let me guess. You're gonna beat me up, drag me through the rocks, and pull out my spleen." And he goes, "No, it's the '90s. We're gonna sue you." I'm like, it's a whole. But now, granted, it's corny, but at least it's a fucking joke and it's kind of funny. And he's like, "Wait till you hear from our lawyer," and they just walk away.
Yeah.
That's at
I
least
can't believe I'm going to
silly.
say this. It's a better written movie. There's callbacks when the bullies come
skateboard?
over the skull, and then this flying through space, and it's called back when
Yeah.
the bullies. That's a funny kind of bit.
Yeah.
I look, I understand what you're saying. I can't disagree structurally with what you're saying, that's a better movie. But there's something about watching, like for me, when I just get in a zone when I'm watching because in me, both movies are terrible. So as soon as I started watching, I'm watching a terrible movie. But with Mr. Nanny, there's so many car wreck scenes that I found it more enjoyable. I'm like, what the fuck is this scene?
What's going on?
Right. So I guess we're both right. That's what I'm saying. But
Well, Mr.
I'd
Nanny
rather
I
watch a
watched
really
first.
bad movie than just a bad movie.
No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I get that.
Because there's scenes in Mr. Nanny that are so bafflingly bad, they're entertaining.
Right. It's so slapsticky.
I'll play one in particular in Mr. Nanny that is one of the most baffling scenes.
Well,
that I've
that's why I
seen.
had an issue with it, because Mr. Nanny, to me, there's movies that are so bad, like, okay, what's the king of the bad movies? The Room, where it made no sense structurally, it made no sense anyway, but it still was so entertaining, okay, and it became this cult hit. This was structurally bad that it took me out of it. Like, it did the opposite of what it does for you. You get zoomed into these bad movies when they're that bad. I watched it as like, oh, they're not even trying, and also it looks like you filmed all this in somebody's apartment. Like, it doesn't even look like
The quality is way
worse. And it's
way
only
worse.
one is 91 and the other one's like 93, right?
Suburban Commando is 91 and Mr. Nanny is 93.
Right.
At the time in 1991, for just some wrestling info, he started filming the movie right after he lost to the Ultimate Warrior. Oh. So WWF was like this was the Suburban Commando, was trying to make Ultimate Warrior the next Hulk Hogan.
Right.
So Hulk Hogan could do this movie. And then he came back when this movie failed.
And then he fought Sergeant Slaughter or something.
Yeah, he went back to Sergeant Slaughter, and he had a feud with The Undertaker, and
Yeah, because if you want to look at it from like, I think you're right. I think this created the stereotype of wrestlers are bad acters. Because look at what we have now, and then this was like the king example of like just him being
Hogan is so bad.
He's
so bad.
Yeah, it's also a thing where it's like, dude, how do you acted in a ring for 30 years?
He's much better as Hulk Hogan than he is.
Totally.
100%. So just do a movie, because apparently No Holds Barred he's not terrible in, because he's just
pretty
playing.
bad in it.
Is he bad in it?
Yeah, he's really bad in it.
All right, I haven't seen it in a while.
If they've talked about this on Something to Wrestle, you should watch it, because there's one scene in it, which I'll play at the end of the podcast, that it's
Which
one
one?
of my favorite bad scenes.
Which movie?
In No Holds Barred.
Oh.
But I'll play that at the end of the podcast.
So
it's one
to
of my
me-
favorite bad scenes in studio history.
I can't believe
in
you.
movie history.
So you had a gun to your head. You had to rewatch one again. You'd rewatch Mr. Nanny. Like, how do you
I may shoot myself in the fucking head, but
how do you have a movie where like the
Well, we should
kids
go through
aren't
the
cute?
plots.
The kids aren't cute. Like, have cute kids at least. Even if it's a bad movie, the kids can always save the day by being really cute.
The little girl, she grew
She
up to
was
be
ki-
cute.
she was cute. She
I
was
looked at her IMDb.
I meant
Jesus
cute
Christ,
as
Andy.
kids, Andy. You mixed up my
Fucking-
As an
definition.
adult.
You serial predator. Let's go through what happens in Suburban Commando.
Okay.
So there's a fight scene in the beginning where Ramsey is fighting off General Suter, who wants to take control over the galaxy. Sad fact: this was the actor's last movie. The guy who played General Suter. This was his final film.
Oh, was it really? Because he
Yeah.
he worked a lot. He was in a bunch of movies.
So he's ordered to go on vacation. Ramsey's ordered to go on vacation to kind of get off the grid so the bad guys don't fight him. He also destroys his power console in the middle of it. Ends up landing on Earth, where he finds an apartment for rent sign, and Shelley Duvall takes Hulk Hogan in to live in their backyard.
No, that's not
bad?
what happened.
Sorry.
You missed one of the best parts ever.
House.
He lands, and then he has to find a
shed.
place to live.
Converts his shed into an apartment.
They have an apartment
That's
for
it.
rent. He walks by a sign, and all the sign says is apartment for rent with an arrow towards a direction. No number, no price, no nothing. And then he just walks, he just guesses, I guess, where the house is.
She's a first-time landlord. Give her a break.
So Popeye's girlfriend.
So yeah, things go to shit when Charlie finds Christopher Lloyd, finds Ramsey's gun and accidentally fires it, which sets off a beacon of light or some sort
they
of
can trace him now.
energy.
Thing
They
for
can
the
trace him for
bounty
the
hunters.
He can only use. He goes. when he's talking to his boss, he's like, "You can charge your vehicle, but only at 0.01% power." And he's like, 0.01%? It'll take me 10 weeks to.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and they're using all these alien terms. I'm like, but you guys still have weeks? Like you, you know what I mean? It's like you have all these parsecs and all this, but you still have weeks.
It's.
He's like, I'm getting audited. I think he just has.
He went Earthlings.
He goes, I hate when he's coming down. He goes, I hate Earthlings. Don't go.
Don't go.
He was really stressed out. He really had a lot of anxiety.
I mean, I think that there's one thing about Hulk Hogan is that he doesn't really like to work. Like, as a wrestler, he kind of learned 2 tricks. And he used them for fucking 20 years.
Well, he was also famous for being kind of shitty, right? Like, because he did. There was the union thing. There was
there was always the famous line about Hulk Hogan is that when he didn't like something or when he was about to get beaten or something, he would just say to Vince, "Doesn't work for me, brother." Like that's how he would politic his way out of it. Apparently, he did get better. I do have on hand the scene where Ramsey tries to skateboard.
Oh, boy.
Hey, Mr. Ramsey, why don't you try?
Yeah.
How many yeahs we need?
Too many yes.
By the way, the bully kid was completely outfitted. The bandana and Z Cavaricci's total bad boy outfit. For 91.
Suburban bad boy.
You can also hear that sound in the sex tape.
Jeez, my mom could stay on longer than that.
And then he does that thing with his face where his face twitches.
Yeah.
And now the skateboard is going in outer space.
And then he gives them a look and they run away. But then Andy was talking about the callback about, I don't know, 2 scenes later or 3 scenes later.
Yeah, they finally trace Shep.
They trace
the
Shep.
bounty hunters.
But before they do, they see the skateboard fly by
flies by them.
ship.
I thought that was genuinely. I kind of chuckled to myself.
Also, I'd like to thank Dan for picking a visual clip to do the audio of.
This is really stupid. In my head, no, it's as I was playing it.
Guy, this is
in
not
my head. I was
not
like,
defend your movie quality production.
It's actually way better than ours.
I know, totally.
We should have
any production.
So Ramsey needs crystals to get off the planet. They go to Charlie's work party because Belts has those crystals. Played by Larry Miller. Larry Miller, very good.
Great.
Yeah.
Larry Miller's good in anything he does. Name something that he did that's not at least funny.
Yeah. No.
You know what it is? He undersells shit. And in a movie like this, you really need underselling.
And also, Larry Miller just plays himself in everything that he does.
Yeah.
Like, there's never a thing where, Larry Miller is, it's not like he's ever gonna have a different take on things. It's always gonna be him. He's always like, all right, even in 10 Things I Hate About You, he's like the overprotective father.
The doorman?
Doorman, he's, oh my God, on Seinfeld, one of the best things ever. Yes. You think you're better than me, huh? Yes. Nah, what was he? He goes, and you didn't even need what did he say? You don't need the couch or whatever? What did he say? You stole the couch? Something like that? What was that, Alex? Yeah. On Seinfeld? He goes, you didn't even need the couch? He goes, nah, I was just messing with him. That's what and all the doormen go, ah! But Larry, of course Larry Miller's one of the best parts of this movie. That's why I don't mind Shelley Duvall or Christopher Lloyd in it, too. It's like,
Shelley Duvall
it is a
did
paycheck.
nothing.
She did. Well, she put a wig on and tried to seduce her husband.
Oh my God, how awful was that?
I just saw
that scene?
The Shining last night, and she's so great in that movie.
Yeah, she's great.
And I feel like she
Shining.
used all her acting in The Shining, and then afterwards she's just like,
Kubrick put her through hell, apparently. She was sick, and she was just like, use it,
Jesus.
Yeah.
What year is The Shining?
80.
80. So this is way after.
So 11 years later, she's still traumatized by Stanley Kubrick. that one scene in The Shining, they apparently shot 127 times.
Jeez.
Just to get her to break down, where she's like, she has the bat, and she's waving the bat back and forth, and it's the best scene in the whole fucking movie.
Give me the bat.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
All right.
So do you want to keep going on the
well,
plot?
what's so basically the bounty hunters come back to Earth. They find Hulk Hogan,
one of which is
Ramsey.
the Undertaker.
One of which is the Undertaker.
With that, I caught halfway through. I just didn't know. I go, that looks like the Undertaker.
He's pretty good.
And then I looked it up. And
the henchmen are both pretty good.
Yeah.
I will say that. They get into some fights at the at Christopher Lloyd's office during a work party because at that time I think I had already mentioned it, but Christopher Lloyd, they're trying to get the crystals to get Ramsey back to the crystals that Christopher Lloyd created. Each of these movies has a crazy inventor.
Yeah,
I noticed each movie is based
he's
around
an engineer.
some sort of crazy engineer, brilliant dude.
And the one from Mr.
who's
Nanny,
kind of a cuck.
What's the
Hogan comes in to show him how to be a real strong man.
Holy shit!
They use the same device of somebody who's like beta male, and then Hogan's going to come in here and show you how to be a dude.
You know that's him doing that. You know that's him being like, oh, you should have Hogan come in and show these pussies how it's done. You know what I mean? Like, you know that.
Yeah.
That's the only way it works. That's why
this movie, the thing about Suburban Commando, I mean, it was originally titled Urban Commando, and it was supposed to star, this is true, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
Yes.
But they opted for twins instead.
Wow.
So it went to Hulk
Talk
Hogan
about one
and
of the
Christopher Lloyd.
all-time great choices. Holy can you imagine? That's what I mean,
That would
man.
have ruined Schwarzenegger's career.
How? So would it
Maybe not ruined Schwarzenegger's
I don't know.
career.
Junior was.
Junior's pretty
Junior's
bad,
not
but they already
as
had
bad as-
twins.
Junior's not as
Yeah,
bad
that's true.
as this.
No.
My point is this: how would that have worked? It must have been pre-script, correct? It must have been pre-script. You don't look at the script of Twins and then the script of this, then go, yeah, let me go with Suburban Commando.
I'm sure they read the script of Twins. Even though on paper, if you would have been like, wait, DeVito and Schwarzenegger are twins and some crazy lab, that sounds crazier as a sell than Suburban Commando.
Right.
I wonder
Because you're
what.
like, well, E.T. was a big movie. Maybe this could. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But obviously, the script was way worse. Also, the gun that was in this movie predominantly, the big laser gun.
Yeah,
That's
and-
from
and-
Masters of the Universe. They just reused it.
Also, they reuse riffs from Back to the Future music. There's literal little notes
Yeah.
from Back to the Future music in it. And the guys, they hold a device. It might be on purpose. The Undertaker and the other guy, a device that is just like a giant version of the flux capacitor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
noticed that 100%.
Yeah. I think they did it. I think it either is the same set designer or somebody's doing,
They just picked it up in the closet.
or they just grabbed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I think there are a series of people in this movie that said, fuck it.
100%.
Oh, I think when they're making these, like, okay, they're real actors. Like, Christopher Lloyd's not making this movie like, oh, this will be good. They're probably thinking it'll be a fun family movie. Because you have to remember this. These movies are directed towards not even like 12-year-olds. They're directed towards like 8-year-olds. And that's why there's so many psych gags in it. That's why it's so
broad.
easy.
Or all
That's
the
why it's
shit
so
with the
broad.
mime.
Yeah.
So you have
I
to think
enjoyed
of it
the mime.
that way. What?
I enjoyed the mime parts.
Oh, give me a fucking break.
Well, the mime part, that was for
brutal.
kids. That was totally for kids.
Yeah, I
enjoy it. I
Andy's
loved
just
it.
not that bright. But anyway, but what I'm saying is,
He thinks he's in a box.
so if you're a talented actor and you're in this, you might start acting broad because you're like, I'm acting for kids. I get it. Like, this is a paycheck, whatever it is. But like, but after you see it, like, the product can come out better. There's kids movies that are made better than this.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But this is before Pixar.
Right, exactly. But goddamn, if you watch, it's like okay. So even Mr. Nanny, like, not to jump around, but
Well, we're basically, let's just get to the end of the Suburban Commando.
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
The end of Suburban Commando, they beat the final bad guy, and then Hogan leaves the planet with is it Larry Miller or Christopher Lloyd's secretary? I think it's
Larry Miller's.
Larry Miller's secretary. They go back to space to fuck, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
That's
You can
basically-
see that romance.
Hogan's
brewing early.
fucking. By the end of that movie, Hogan is fucking.
That's what his rider. That's all it is.
Hogan
She
be
was
fucking.
super horny, too.
I'll do whatever
Yeah.
shitty movie you want as long as Hogan's fucking at the end of the movie.
I better be fucking a blonde at the end of this, brother. Maybe he wanted to fuck Shelley Duvall, and they're like, you can't do that and still be a likable character. All right, bro. That's a sex scene I would never want to see.
Oof,
Hulk Hogan and Shelley Duvall.
Yikes.
I would watch it in a heartbeat.
So our opinions on this are.
Oh, and at the end of the movie, I'm sorry, Christopher Lloyd quits his job, tells Larry Miller to shove it up his ass, and is going to go off on his own. So
Yeah.
he finds his balls while Hulk Hogan goes.
Right,
back.
and you knew, and the first scene of the movie, you're like, that's the end of the movie.
Yes, that's the end
You
of
just
the
know
movie.
it is, which
Yeah.
is fine, and it's also it's good, whatever. It's a good message. It's like, have confidence, whatever you want to say. But as far as the movie goes, if I would have saw this if I would have saw this how it was supposed to, say I watched it, we just were talking about this, I'd be like, oh my god, this is awful. But if you watch Mr. Nanny before this movie, you're like, this is amazing.
That's the way I did it.
Absolutely.
I
'Cause
watched
I'm like,
it before
there's
Mr. Nanny.
The writing,
I watched it the other way.
makes way more sense. The jokes are there. The production value is like, I don't know how much more the budget was, but it was like it might as well be $100 million compared to fucking Mr. Nanny.
It's interesting you guys say this because if I was just a film fan, I would totally agree with you. But because I'm a wrestling fan, like I look at Mr. Nanny as this almost fever dream of what Hulk Hogan sees himself as, and it's a more interesting watch for me.
Yeah.
So we should go into Mr. Nanny now.
Yeah. And just as full disclosure, I didn't finish either of these. I just know how they end.
I watched both
did,
movies.
but I just fast forwarded through the tough parts.
I watched both movies.
I have things written down about Mr. Nanny.
Okay. Sean Armstrong, played by Hulk Hogan, is a former...
Armstrong, get it?
Yeah. Is a former professional wrestler turned bodyguard. And I guess Burt Wilson, played by Sherman Helmsley, is Sean's old friend / manager in the wrestling business. Austin Pendleton, lawyer from My Cousin Vinny, is the rich dad. I think Austin Pendleton does a much better job than Christopher Lloyd in this movie.
Who does he play?
He plays the dad.
Austin Pendleton, okay.
Austin Pendleton.
Okay.
I think he does a much better job.
Way better job than Christopher. No way.
Way better job.
No way. I'll tell you what Austin Pendleton had. You're out of your mind because Austin Pendleton's a good actor.
No,
and he's in a bunch of Law and Orders.
I just saw that Law and Order before I watched Mr. Nanny.
Where he plays the bride guy. He makes them his bride.
Yes,
SVU
and he gets
his dick chopped off.
Right. Yeah. I just saw it.
And he's still good in that.
He's a good actor.
All right, he's a good actor. And here's the thing, man. Austin Pendleton is such a good actor that when Hulk Hogan is acting shitty, he's trying to match it. Like you can almost see it because Hulk Hogan is just like. You're really right. He doesn't give a fuck in this. He's mumbling lines in this movie. That's how bad the movie is. The takes they used, I can only imagine how bad the takes they didn't use were. He's like, he says something about, he's like, I want to go do this and then go hit the rack. Like, he literally mumbles something and then walks away as he's saying the line and the audio doesn't even fucking pick it up. It's so bad. And then you watch Austin Pendleton and there's only one funny part with Austin Pendleton where his assistant, that guy, gets beat up because he's working for the bad guys, and he gets beat up because they can't get the chip for the bad guys. Who's Buster Poindexter? That's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Dave Johansen. And
Dave Johansen is so bad in this movie.
It's so bad. Everybody's bad. And literally the guy is talking to Austin Pendleton. I think they left an outtake in the fucking movie. Because at one point, he goes... he keeps having these cards. He goes, where's Nick? And then he just has a card that says where Nick is. So he goes, he's not here. And he's like, oh, he usually drives me. And then he has a card for an answer for that. And then he looks at it, he just laughs. There's no reason why he should be laughing in the story. He just laughs and he goes, wow, your preparedness is very unusual. And then he laughs at that. And I'm like, that's an outtake. That's just them fucking around. And they left it in the movie. But it's actually really funny. Like, they should have. And then you just see him and he's just laughing at it. He's like, all right, Nick's not here. You want to drive me? Okay, all right. And then, like, it just, he's phoning it in. He's also matching the bad acting so it fits. Like, I'm telling you, dude, you are out of your mind.
Well, here's why I like Mr. Nanny better than Suburban Commando. And all of these are the most childish reasons ever. Number one, you get Hulk Hogan on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Oh, that's also another part. Robert Dean, our friend, he told me, he pointed out a famous part in that part. Where
with the dog.
With the dog, yeah.
Somebody just throws a dog in the water.
He's riding the motorcycle, and you don't really notice it the first time. He's like almost like Thunder in Paradise. Like, he's riding this with a tank top on, supposed to be a badass Hogan scene. In the background, by the shore, some dude just chucking his dog in the water.
I missed that.
So
that's your reasoning? Because the motorcycle scene?
There's that, and there's also the reasoning of this, which again, it's like I'm not approaching this movie as a film critic. I think the idea Hulk Hogan as an alien makes sense walking around, but watching Hulk Hogan try to be a person and walk around is so entertaining to me.
Yeah, that's what Robert said.
Yeah, it's like
he's better at being an alien than a person.
He's better at being an alien. You can kind of buy his, but like when he's walking around and just trying to be a normal guy, you're like, none of this works.
That's absolutely true. You're absolutely right. And so none of it works. So what do you? How you defend? How is that part of your defense?
Part of my defense is like, if I want to watch a car wreck, I want to watch a car wreck.
Yeah.
But
they're both car wrecks. They're both like...
One's a bad movie, and Mr. Nanny's a fucking car wreck. Mr. Nanny is the beginning scene where he's having PTSD, and he's getting beaten up by Jim Neidhart and Kamala and all these wrestlers in the ring, which really isn't addressed rather later in the movie.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah, he's in Florida. I think they're like both sharing like a can of soup in the beginning, him and Sherman Helmsley.
Yeah.
A can of chili.
For some reason, Sherman Helmsley runs a security business, but he's broke. And the whole... But I don't know why. I don't know how he's like so broke. He's like poverty stricken in this movie. It's really weird. And every time he calls him from the house, the rest of the movie... They're taking his stuff. So there's all these gags. Like he's literally on the phone with them, and the repo men are there trying to take his phone. What?
Maybe there was more to Mr. Nanny than I thought.
Are you kidding me? You're going to switch? He's convincing you?
I've got to say,
it just makes no sense.
As you're talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good
But the
plot
whole thing
design.
is like, what do you remember more? And Mr. Nanny, all right, well, let's just go to the plot really quick. The plot's crazy. I don't need bullet points for this. He's then somehow Sherman Helmsley and Hulk Hogan are broke. They used to be in the professional wrestling business. Now Sherman Helmsley is running some sort of bodyguard business. He saved Hulk Hogan's life. So Hulk Hogan, I'm not going to use his fucking Armstrong name. Hulk Hogan owes him his life. He agrees to take a job as a bodyguard for a pretty affluent like inventor, a guy who's essentially created the Star Wars Ronald Reagan system, and somehow he's able to get.
I love how Dan has respect for the fake scientist in the movie. He's like, he's actually pretty legit. He's a legit scientist.
He's talking about Star Wars. He's talking about a revolutionary.
That is what it is. And you know that's where they got the idea, but it's funny that you're like, no, but like if nothing else, the science is sound.
He's legit.
He's a legit scientist. So he shows up at his work, beats up a bunch of security guards, and then is somehow hired to become the bodyguard of Austin Pendleton's kids. The nanny, the first day, is fired, so he's now
the nanny
by default. De facto
By default.
bodyguard / nanny. And these kids try to murder Hulk Hogan throughout the entire fucking movie. It's not just like pranks.
Yeah,
they have the
death
first
traps.
gag is they have a bowling ball that falls on his head.
Yeah.
Which is fine in Home Alone because they're trying to burglarize, Kevin's house. So it's like, of course he's going to try to. It's
Fuck
self-defense.
them. Yeah.
Like he's trying to, they use the bowling ball gag first, and then they fucking electrocute him at
They're
one
straight
point.
up sociopaths.
There's one point where there's a shower gag where you don't know what's going to come out of the shower. I thought it was just going to be like, oh, paint comes out of the shower, or something goofy comes out of the shower.
It's blood.
It's just they just built up the pressure so he gets knocked out by the water.
And then electrocuted.
And
you know he wanted a tiny towel for that scene, too, to show the goods.
Oh, but also the bathroom is weird in that house. Like the bathroom, if you look at the
I
bathroom,
studied the bathroom, yeah.
It looks like the bathroom of like a high school
Well, the
gym.
thing is what they needed...
They needed to block his...
Because they needed to have the door open. Because they're like, well, we can't have the kids in the bathroom looking at Hulk's dick.
With him, yeah.
So they have then like this barrier so they don't see Hulk's dick. And the kids can still watch him get electrocuted. So it's worse if they saw the Hogan dick than them trying to literally kill a man.
It'd be so funny. The pranks. He just shows him his dick, and then the pranks stop after that. He's like, "Well, keep bragging about this," and just shows him the Hogan dick, and they're like,
The kids are so
I don't feel right."
Also,
these kids are so well behaved. Yeah, they saw my hog, and that was it.
also,
You won't have to worry about them
But it's
anymore.
true. That was a conversation. They're like, listen, we can't have the kids in the bathroom with a naked Hulk Hogan. Like, you can't have it. So if you want to have him go into the shower. But they could also, he does this thing. Do you do this? Guys do this in the shower? He did both shower knobs at the same time.
Also, nobody,
Yeah.
while they're taking a shower, like, puts the towel around their waist when they're in the bathroom and then goes into the shower unless you're in a gym with other dudes.
Exactly.
So,
because that's where that was filmed. I don't think it was filmed. That was not a house.
I bet you, though, that's how Hogan takes showers, even by himself. Like, he wraps it around.
Yeah, he's just used the locker rooms.
It's so funny. They, like, these kids couldn't see Hogan dick.
And the whole
so they had
movie,
to
there's
block
this
it with
weird
a ceramic wall.
like S&M creepy like undertone of like, all we want to do is be punished, Daddy. Please punish us, Daddy.
Yeah.
Kids need structure.
That was their attempt at making like a deep storyline very obvious. Because like something that could have come
Austin
out in the
Pellman's
drama.
wife is dead. We should say that, too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's a widower, so he's...
There's also another creepy scene where he walks by the daughter's room.
Oh, I have that.
And she can't... You're going to put that on?
Yeah, I'm going to put that on right now.
You want me to describe it first?
Yeah,
Or you wanna-
describe it first.
She can't sleep. But in movies, when children can't sleep, they usually walk into the parents' room and they go, "Can I sleep with you? I can't sleep." Uncle
Right.
Buck, they do it. All these things. They never show the girl or the boy in the bed not being able to sleep. And she didn't do it in a way where she was just lying in bed awake. She did it in a way where she's literally going, meh. She's making noises. You're going to hear it in a second.
Right here.
But it's really, really creepy. You don't know, you can't tell what she's doing.
I couldn't sleep then either.
Oh no, that's when he talks to her.
Yeah.
Do you have earlier than that?
No, I have this...
Hold on, pause it for a second. That's what he says to her. No, so literally right before that scene, the only way you're introduced to it is a panning of the camera coming up to her bed, and she's just rustling around, making these weird noises, like these these weird sounds. And I'm like, what the fuck is she doing? I'm like, what is
about
going
murder.
on? Yeah, and then what happens is you go up and you realize, oh, she can't sleep, and then Hogan's walking by, and she's like, "Daddy," and then he's just like, "No, it's just me." It's just the weirdest scene, and then she comes in and he goes. And then she goes, and there was supposed to be a joke here. This is why this movie sucks so bad. Because she goes, "I can't sleep." He goes, "Do what you did last night." That was his joke. And she goes, "I couldn't sleep last night either. Ever since my mommy went to heaven." It's like, wow, way to make the connection on that one.
Yeah, this is the
No,
scene
it's just me.
where this is supposed to be like a tender moment between Hogan and the daughter, and they really just
Yep.
really missed the
This is
mark.
when he actually comes in the room.
Sleep.
Do whatever you did last night.
I couldn't sleep then either.
He's like, "Oh, you try rubbing one out?"
That's what Hogan does.
That's what the Hulkster.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Sure. My mommy was here before she went to heaven.
What song
Also,
is
what's
this?
that music in the background? Is there the souls of
that
dead
Heart?
kids in that room?
You know, I lost my dad when I was a kid. But, I don't think he went to heaven.
Me went too. Oh.
Nice job, Hulk.
Sing me a song. Could you sing it to me?
Like, she's doing a great job.
She's like, "I'm just going to deflect away out of this conversation."
Yeah.
Sing it to you. Speed bunny boat like a bird on the wing. Onward the sailors cry. Carry the lad who was born.
Oh, he falls
Oh,
asleep.
no,
That's
he
the
fell
gag.
asleep. That's
Here's
the
the thing,
gag.
man. That's how you know how bad this movie is. This little girl is carrying Hulk Hogan in the scene.
And why does she know a
She's
sea
doing-
shanty
Also,
right
it's
there?
kind of a
She's not
weird-
Quint, for Christ's
There's
sake.
also like an undertone where like his dad beat the shit out of him and he's in hell. I've never heard like someone comfort their kid that way before they go to bed, where it's like, "Oh, you're trying to get to bed, honey? Well, the cops were called when I was a little kid because my dad tried to beat me with a fucking baseball bat."
So think of that. At least I'm not calling the cops.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least I'm not beating you with a baseball bat. How about that? You want to go to bed now?
After that is where the movie really goes off the rails. Because
Really? Not for the first 30 seconds?
because the bad guy in this, Mr. Thanatos,
Buster Poindexter.
which you're just thinking has he ever been good in anything, that guy?
No.
He was always kind of like hammy and really tough to watch.
He's famous in one thing. What's he famous in? One movie that he's like famous. He did one thing that was like people loved, like some like cult thing. I forget what it was.
I don't know, but funny enough, he is he performed the main theme, Rough Stuff, under the pseudonym Buster Poindexter. So he's the one who did the music for this.
Do you have the
That
music?
guy. I do have it.
Play
yeah, I gotta play it. But as I'm setting this up,
It's also
so
like-
his character we think is just an evil villain that wants it. But then we find out that he originally was like some sort of shoddy amateur wrestling promoter that shot
With
Sherman
great hair.
Helmsley
Yeah.
in the knee. That shot Sherman Helmsley when he was trying to kill Hulk Hogan.
Which may be the worst scene. And the
Well-
way he gets in front of him with his thigh and gets shot
Yeah.
is so bad.
And Buster Poindexter comes in wearing a Slash wig, apparently. I don't know why he has
Right, he has
Yeah.
huge
stupid
hair.
wig, yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. He has a metal head.
All right, so
And-
this is the theme song that.
I just wanna go fishing in the deep blue sea, 'cause I need a change from my reality.
How do you go from the New York Dolls to this?
He was in the New York Dolls. I forgot about that.
Yeah. That's David Johansen's real name. Like, okay, let's
This is
explore
what's-
that. Because
yeah.
really quickly, dude, they do these things. Now, granted, I know it's the 90s, whatever, okay? But they go into these singles. They're not going into it being like, let's make this shitty song for this movie. They're thinking it's going to be a fucking single.
Chart topper?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
I think it makes it sadder that he did this movie then, because he's like, all right, well, I'll at least get my song.
Well, it would make sense he did the movie because he was doing a bunch of movies at this time. He did a couple other ones. I can't remember what else he was in. He might
Who
have
do
been.
you
Was
think
he
is
in
the
Total
worst-
Recall? Was he in that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
He was in that.
who do you think is a worse actor, him or
Hulk Hogan?
no, Alice Cooper? Like if you want to go up through musician actors.
I only know Alice Cooper from when he was in Wayne's World.
Yeah, that's all I
Well,
know.
he was in
from
Prince
either.
of Darkness too, that John Carpenter movie.
I never saw
I
it.
saw it.
I think he may be worse because at least Alice Cooper isn't trying as hard.
He's not bad in Wayne's World. He's fine in Wayne's World. He's whatever.
Yeah, but that's a different type.
Also,
of
he
role.
had the frame of mind to stay away.
Yeah,
Like he didn't make his own movie, Alice Cooper.
yeah.
God
Yeah,
damn.
he's really.
This
bad.
is like we're coming from two different lines of thought when it comes to this.
I mean, I mean, both of our lives, we just strip time out of our lives for this.
Like both movies I watched with mouth agape.
Yeah.
I just watched with I'm like, because I didn't know. I think I was already too old to be into this level of movie.
Yeah.
And I was already done with wrestling and done with Hulk Hogan. I thought Suburban Commando was like, that's also another thing that it suffers from, bad title, because it makes you think that he's just an army guy who has to come and take care of these kids.
Right.
That he like, oh, he's in hiding or something, and he has to come take care of these kids. That's what it seems like. Not that he's an alien warrior. That's just out the fucking. No wonder this bombed so bad.
I do think that his acting is worse than Suburban Commando.
Yeah, I think
the
so.
I
worst
don't.
than Thunder
No,
in
Suburban
Paradise.
Commando is
Thunder in
first.
Paradise is the worst. I know, but I think that, like, re-examining this, I think that his acting in Suburban Commando, like in the scene where he's by himself and he's talking to his commander, and right before he lands on Earth, he goes, "I hate Earthlings." We talked about that scene. I think that's the worst acted scene in both movies
Maybe, but
because he's not
but
reacting.
the
to anything.
physicality, at least the physicality in this movie makes sense. He's jumping over walls. The skateboard scene, red. Everything red. It made sense. I mean, and the physicality in Mr. Nanny when he does the workout bike and he's just flailing his arms after it explodes, and you're like, yeah, that wouldn't happen. Like you would just be on the floor or something. You wouldn't. It wouldn't just keep your arms going with the arm thing.
Or with the bench press, and he goes, "Whoa, I'm out of shape."
Yeah, and it's basically like their goal was like, oh, it's going to be a human cartoon. It's going to be like that. That's what it's going to be.
So at the end of the movie, after the head of security has been killed, who's secretly a bad guy, the New York Dolls abducted Austin Pendleton's kids. They put them in a warehouse somewhere. Hulk Hogan comes and saves them. With Sherman Helmsley shows up again.
They also kidnap Austin Pendleton at one point.
Austin
Then-
Pendleton.
and then there's a
Start
scene that's-
waterboarding him.
They're waterboarding him, and there's a scene that starts out, and they go, "Sir, it's been 90 seconds." He goes, "Okay, lift him up." And I'm like, 90 seconds? He's dead. I'd be dead. I can't even hold my breath underwater for like 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
Bridge the movies. Both families taken hostage and released at the end of the films. In both.
Yeah.
Both all the
That's
whole
a
families
common
were
theme.
taken.
That's a common theme.
Yeah,
And you know what
both ends of the movies, it's essentially the same movie.
It's the same. It's Suburban Commando. He goes, "You just deal with me," and then he just goes, "All right, you guys can leave," and they just walk out the door. They just leave. There's no sort of any. Like, he doesn't put up a fight at all.
What does he say?
They just walk out. They just open the door and walk out.
Usually the hostages are there. He's like, no, I'll get all of you.
At the end, at the end of Mr. Nanny, when the head thing comes back, when the metal head,
Yeah,
part,
he's
what does
just
he say?
ramming.
Talk
He's just
about
like-
a hard head, or
Yuck.
oh, that's the thing too, is he kind of turns into like a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, he just kind of puts
does
his
like
head
the
down and starts
Juggernaut
ramming people, and it's working for a little bit. But then the science comes back into play, and the father and the son team up, and they figure out how to
Austin Pendleton knows science.
get a
Electric-
electric conductor,
Yeah.
and
It's a mess.
it sends Buster Poindexter on a hilarious electric loop-de-loop, which is... Man, these are bad.
yeah, these are really
I
bad.
watched these at work. Man hours were lost to these movies.
Even if you...
I would rather work than watch these. This
Even
was
if you
work.
watch-
I would say watching this was work, right?
Because the argument that can be made is that, like, guys, these movies are for kids. Even for kids, these are bad. Like, even for, like, there's no, like...
Yeah.
It may make no sense.
Because this was around the time of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids,
Yeah.
and there's still the
But
Goonies.
Suburban Commando, if I had kids, I'd be like, you can watch Suburban Commando. At least it's a fucking movie.
Do you think Mac and Me is better than Suburban Commando? Or do you think it's worse? Where would you put Mac? Because Mac
Suburban
and Me
Commando's worse.
is worse than Mac and Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac and Me's just like a bad, really, really bad ripoff.
Yeah.
I'll read it.
And at the end of Mr. Nanny, Sean.
Still goes back. There's more and more plot.
He's at the end of it. Hogan is, or I guess it's Sean Armstrong in this one. He's reunited the family together. He has that famous line where he says, "You got the hardest job of all, being a dad." And
Wow.
then he leaves on his motorcycle, and you think all is well. And then essentially the kids kill him.
Yeah.
Because they rigged the motorcycle, and the last shot is Hulk Hogan flying off the motorcycle head first, and they do a freeze frame. So they put a tripwire on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Cue rough stuff.
Wow. Just
Cue
never
rough
stops.
stuff.
Plays over the
And
credits
then Rough
again.
Stuff plays over the credits.
Can you imagine being at that premiere and just...
Just hiding your head in shame?
Also, by the way, too, didn't you think it was going to be a nice moment where they're like, he's going to stay with the family, but he's like, no,
I'm out.
he leaves.
Yeah, what the fuck? Also, yeah, you're right. The kids just murder this guy. Now, these kids were dealing in like real, actual hardware stuff. Like when Sherman Hemsley's in the kid's room and the kid just has a bunch of blueprints up on the wall. Like it's like the kid's like a scientist.
Well, he is his father's son.
Well, that
Right,
kid
that's
would
true,
have
yeah.
100% have been a school shooter.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 15 years later. You know, like... And that's another thing where he's able to like this 300-pound wrestler they're able to fuck with, but he can't fuck with school bullies
Yeah, right. Well, I think
until
that's the whole
Sherman
idea.
Hemsley
Yeah.
shows
And
up.
also, what the other thing is, so Mother Love played, like, I guess the maid/cook.
Oh,
Why was she let off? Like, they never fucked
Well,
with
because
her?
she's just as physically abusive. Like, she hits him with a frying pan. She tries
Yeah,
to cut his
true.
hand
She's
off.
on the kid's side. She's
Fair
like-
point.
She's like, you can do it. You can stay and you can get to these kids. And he's like, really? She's like, no, not really. And he's like, oh, wait a
Mother Love.
It's like,
And at the end of it, I forgot my favorite part of Mr. Nanny. At the end of it, Sherman Helmsley is like in like some sort of like Navy funeral outfit. He's like in an official military uniform, and he's
yeah.
the head of security. He's like Richard Gere, an officer and a gentleman, for no reason at the end of the movie. And I guess he's with Mother Love now.
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
like, he's
oh,
going to
yeah,
be the new
thing,
security
yeah.
head.
And they're flirting the whole movie, even though she is really violent. The whole movie,
Yeah.
dude.
Wow.
So you
I
guys
can't
would
believe
say
you say
Suburban
Mi-
Commando
Yes.
is
Yes,
a better
yes.
movie
Yes.
than Mr. Nanny. I think Mr. Nanny is
No
a better movie than
contest.
Suburban Commando.
No, you're not saying that. You said it's more fun to watch.
Yes.
Suburban Commando.
That's not a better movie. See, it's two different arguments.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but
You know,
if you're
what's a better-
asking me which one I'd rather watch again, it would be Mr. Nanny.
Mr. Nanny has 7% on Rotten Tomatoes,
Mr. Nanny does have
and then the other one
7%.
has 11 or
doesn't
15.
register.
I think it's 15% on
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes. If you had to watch a movie over again, it would be Suburban Commando.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I would. I'd watch Suburban Commando again. Because I'm like, it's bad enough. See, I know what you're talking about. The phenomenon of it's so bad it's funny. That Suburban Commando has that, but also has a couple of gags. You're like, that actually was kind of funny. Like, there's little jokes in there. You're like, it wasn't that bad. At least it shows a little bit of competence. Mr. Nanny was like, oh, Hulk Hogan had an extra $2 million, and he was like, we're gonna do this, brother.
Well, that's the thing is this movie was a $10 million budget, and it made like
Which one?
Mr. Nanny.
Oh my
Mr.
god!
Nanny had,
Stunts ain't cheap.
Yeah, it was a $10 million budget. So it was $1 million less than Suburban Commando.
Well, it looked like it was a $10,000 budget.
No.
The dynamic between the dad and the kids was so weird.
was
Just
so
him
weird.
coming in and being like, there's a scene where he goes,
They
Sean,
made
what's his
$4.3
name?
million.
Sean. He goes, Sean, can you tell the kids good night for me? And he goes, I have to go on this business trip. And he goes, why don't you tell them yourself? He goes, what are you saying? He goes, I can't go in there. He goes, and just tell them right now. And he goes, yeah, what do you have to do that's so do you have anything else to do that's more important than going to say goodbye to the kids? And he goes, yes, I have to. Well, no, I don't. You should have had that one. I'm like, it's the weirdest thing.
He's also like looking at a picture of his dead wife,
Yeah.
like when he interrupts him.
Yeah.
And then and then Austin Pendleton's character puts a microchip in the microchip that everybody's trying to steal in this movie. He puts it in his kid's stuffed animal, so he really is a shitty father.
Yeah,
Dolly.
Yeah, right. And it's also like, really, that you think this should be safekeeping on a child's toy? And then the best part, wouldn't it be great if when they had that whole thing of like, when he's like, you can say goodnight to your kids, and then he realizes the whole mother, the wife being dying thing, and then they just reenacted the "It's Not Your Fault" scene from a good movie. And it's just Austin Pendleton and Hogan. It's like, it's not your fault.
Not your fault, brother.
It's not your fault. Your wife died. Is it implied that Buster Poindexter kills the wife? No.
No. I think it's a separate incident. They probably. I mean, I'm sure that was part of the writing process.
You know what I'd rather? I'd rather a movie about the circumstances around the wife.
I'd rather watch
Yeah.
the wife slowly dying of cancer than see this movie again. Also, you know that scene like when Hulk Hogan does ballet and the
Oh, yes, I was going to talk about that, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
in the tutu, like when they were doing that scene, that's where all the producers and Hogan and everyone was like, "Yeah, this is our next Kindergarten Cop. This is our money scene."
I think you're right. Absolutely.
Because the movie covers him in a tutu
Yes.
holding and they're like, "This is going to sell the whole movie."
And also there's a moment where for some reason, because he's doing ballet, he just changes the way he talks. Like he talks very effeminately.
Right, yeah.
And he's like, oh, would you like a watercress sandwich or a thing? And it's like, you've been doing ballet for 10 minutes. Also, your voice doesn't change when you do ballet.
cultures you.
Jesus Christ. All right.
Well,
Well, either way, don't see these movies.
do not.
We basically told you all the best parts. You heard some of the best parts, so don't go see the movies. There's no point.
It's absolute fucking train wreck, and it's not even fun bad. Neither of these movies would constitute as fun bad.
You're gonna be mad at yourself while you're watching it that you're watching it. You're gonna see if you're watching in the daytime, you're like, it's nice out. Why am I watching this?
Yeah, I was mad at Dan for 3 hours combined for making us.
And if it's rainy out, you're like, why am I not watching something else?
Yeah, exactly.
So
They don't pass the flip test.
Well, I don't know, Alex. What would you say wins?
Well, 2 for 1, Suburban
I haven't
Commando
seen
out on
either,
vote.
but Suburban Commando just based on this.
Yeah, all right.
But I haven't seen either.
Sorry,
my
Mr.
opinion's
Nanny.
worthless.
Alex, I want you to watch both of these movies now.
Also, now if it came out now, it would be called The Manny.
Yeah.
That'd be a better title for it.
It's a documentary about Manny Pacquiao and his problematic views on gay people.
It's just him in a tutu. Like, I don't know. If this is right.
Like, this is disgusting. All right. Well, that's a wrap on our first ever crossover.
We should do
This
more
is
of
like
these.
what other crossover? Didn't they have Full House and Family Matters crossovers?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
This is like the podcast equivalent of that.
No, it was
The Simpsons critic.
No one listens to it.
what?
The Simpsons critic, Scooby-Doo, and the Scooby-Doo had a lot.
There was a bunch of them.
Scooby-Doo and the
bunch of
Globetrotters.
crossovers.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo and the Globetrotters.
A basketball team's here to help with this
Out of
mystery.
nowhere.
I think How I Met Your Mother and Deadwood had one. I'm Dan St. Germain. You can find all my dates on danstgermain.net. I have an album, No Real Winners, here. Please subscribe to the podcast, Total Effin' Marks. And I may be on live at the Comedy Cellar this week. I'm not really sure. No, maybe next week. I don't know, but it's a show on Comedy Central. Check that out. Sean, Andy?
I'm Sean Donnelly. I'm at Shawnytime on Instagram and Twitter. And I don't think I'm going to be on live at the Comedy Cellar this week. I taped it, but I doubt it'll be on. And you listen to the podcast. Listen to Defend Your Movie. And listen, rate, and review us. And email us, defendyourmovie@gmail.com. Or tweet at us at defendyourmovie. And and check out showbizstudios.com.
Yes, and you can follow me at Andy Fiori, AndyFiori. Omaha Funny Bone, November 9th through the 12th. And all my dates at andyfiori.com. And it was a fun one.
This was fun, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Go see Mandy.
You see Mandy.
Andy.